I have to be honest with you. I think I probably checked my phone 3 times just walking from the door to the microphone.
Oh, I know the
It
feeling.
wasn't even ringing. It was just that itch. You know what I'm talking about?
Phantom
The
buzz.
phantom buzz,
Yeah.
exactly. It's this constant sort of low-level panic that I might be missing something, that I need to be on.
And if you're not on,
I'm irrelevant. Yeah.
it's the modern condition, isn't it? We've basically conflated availability with being a utility.
A utility. That's good.
If you're available, you're interruptible. If you're interruptible, well, you're efficient. And if you're efficient, you're exhausted.
Exhausted is the word. It really feels like a liability. Being available means opening the door to being, well, used up.
Mm-hmm.
But, and this is why I'm so excited about today, we're looking at a document that claims we have this definition completely backward.
It really does flip the script.
We're diving into a text titled, Christ the Fulfillment of Hineni, the Life Fully Given. And just to set the stage, the argument here isn't, try harder to be available.
No, not at all.
It's actually arguing that availability is the secret to a kind of power and leadership that doesn't burn you out.
Right. The core premise is that true availability isn't a leadership strategy you implement. It's a reality you step into. It's what the author calls a Christological reality.
A Christological reality.
Okay.
We're throwing the big words out early today. But before we get to the theology, we have to talk about that word in the title, Hineni.
Right.
I've heard this, in church, maybe in a Leonard Cohen song. It's Hebrew, right?
It is. It translates simply to, here I am.
Here I am. Simple enough. And usually when I picture this in the Bible, I picture the Titans. Abraham on the mountain.
Yeah.
Moses at the burning bush.
Yeah.
Isaiah.
The big ones.
The big ones.
Uh-huh.
God calls their name and they stand up tall and say, Hineni.
And that's how we're taught to see it. It's the heroic response. God speaks, and the human summons the courage to answer. But this source makes a really provocative point right out of the gate. It says that if you look closely at those Old Testament figures, their Hineni was actually, well, a bit of a mess.
A mess. These are the patriarchs we're talking about.
They are, but they were also deeply flawed humans. I mean, look at Moses. He says, here I am, but 5 minutes later, what's he doing?
He's arguing.
He's arguing with a burning bush. He's listing all his excuses. I have a stutter. They won't believe me. Please send someone else.
That's such a good point. I always forget about the arguing. I just remember the Charlton Heston version,
Exactly. Or look at Abraham. He says, here I am, but he also passes his wife off as his sister twice because he's afraid of getting killed.
Right.
The source describes their availability as fragmented. It was episodic. They were available in moments, but then fear or self-preservation would kick in and they'd pull back.
So if our version of here I am is fragmented and unreliable, where does that leave us? Because I feel that. I'm available on Monday morning, but by Thursday afternoon, don't even talk to me.
And that's where the flip happens. The author argues that we've fundamentally misunderstood the direction of the word.
How so?
We think Hineni is primarily something humans say to God. But the text argues that Hineni is first and foremost something God said to humans through Jesus.
Wait, so God says, here I am, to us.
Yes. The argument is that Hineni is Christological before it is ethical.
Okay, you're going to have to walk me through that one. Christological before ethical. That sounds like something I'd underline in a book and then pretend to understand later.
Well, think of it like this. Ethical implies a demand on you. It's a rule. You must be available.
Right, it's on my to-do list.
Exactly. If availability is just ethical, then it's entirely up to your willpower. You have to manufacture the patience and the energy to say yes to God and to people, even when you're empty.
Which leads right back to the burnout we started with.
Precisely. It leads to what the source calls negotiated faith. You start making these little deals. God, I'll be available for this volunteer role, but you owe me a smooth week at work.
I feel seen. That is definitely how I operate. I'll do this, but I need to see the ROI.
But if it's Christological first, it means the heavy lifting has already been done. Before availability was ever a command for you to obey, it was a reality that Jesus lived. He is the ultimate. Here I am.
He's the one who didn't negotiate.
He's the one. And the text points to a really specific and honestly kind of strange passage to prove this. It's from Hebrews chapter 10.
Right.
It is strange, but it's so powerful. The writer of Hebrews takes the psalm and puts it into the mouth of Jesus before he's even born. He says, a body you prepared for me. I have come to do your will.
A body you prepared for me. Such a physical image.
That's the key, the prepared body. The source spends a lot of time on this. It emphasizes that Jesus' availability wasn't a theory. It wasn't just some spiritual sentiment beamed down from the clouds.
He was written into flesh.
It was written into flesh. It had texture. Exactly. When Jesus says, "Here I am," he's taking on a body that can get hungry, a body that can get tired, a body that can bleed. And the source argues that this changes everything.
Because it means his obedience played out in the messiness of the real world.
Yes, and I think this is where the rubber meets the road for anyone listening who feels overwhelmed. Because we tend to think of spiritual availability as this serene monastery vibe, sitting in silence, feeling holy.
Right.
But the source says Jesus' availability was defined by interruptions.
Oh, I hate interruptions. If I'm in the zone and someone knocks on my door, I'm not thinking, Hineni, I'm thinking, go away.
Right, but look at Jesus. He's on his way to do something important, like heal a dying girl, and a woman just touches the hem of his garment.
And he stops.
He stops, he engages. He didn't see that as a glitch in the schedule. The source argues that because he had this prepared body, he allowed himself to be touchable, delayable, and inconvenienced.
So, unlike Moses or Abraham, whose availability kind of flickered on and off, Jesus' availability was, what? Continuous.
Uninterrupted. That's the word the text uses. From the manger to the cross, there was no gap between his will and the Father's. He didn't just say the word, he embodied it.
And that leads to a term the source uses that we really need to unpack. Kenosis.
Kenosis.
It sounds like a medical diagnosis. I'm afraid you have a bad case of kenosis.
It's Greek, from Philippians chapter 2. It means self-emptying.
Now, hold on. Self-emptying. In a corporate context or even a mental health context, that sounds dangerous. It sounds like losing your identity or becoming a doormat.
And that's a common misunderstanding. The source is very careful to make that distinction.
Okay.
Kenosis isn't God losing his divinity or his identity. It's not about becoming less. It's about how he chooses to display his power.
How do you mean?
The source argues that true power, divine power, does not resist limitation. It transforms it. I mean, think about it. We usually display power by asserting control, by building walls, by making ourselves untouchable. God displayed power by becoming vulnerable.
By becoming a baby.
By becoming a baby. By letting humanity get close enough to hurt him.
So the divine initiative isn't God sitting back on a throne waiting for us to get our act together.
Yeah.
It's God stepping down into the mess first.
Exactly. Imagine a relationship where you've messed up. You're afraid to call the other person because you don't know where you stand. There's distance, anxiety.
Sure.
But if that person shows up at your door and says, "I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, we're in this together," the dynamic changes instantly.
You stop trying to earn your way back in.
Right. You move from transaction to relationship. That's the incarnation. God didn't wait for humanity to say Hineni. He said it first.
But, and there's a big but, here, the deep dive doesn't pretend this is all sunshine and rainbows. There's a cost.
A huge cost.
Because if you say, "Here I am" to the world might just chew you up. And the source goes straight to the darkest moment, the Garden of Gethsemane.
This is crucial. If we stopped at the miracles, availability would just look like a superpower. But Gethsemane shows us the grammar of surrender.
The grammar of surrender. That's a heavy phrase. The source points out something that I think gets glossed over in Sunday school. The dread. Jesus wasn't sitting there calmly reciting lines. He was terrified.
He was visibly in anguish, sweating blood. He prayed, "Let this cup pass from me."
Right.
The source emphasizes this to show that availability does not mean the absence of struggle. It doesn't mean you don't have personal desires or fears.
That's actually a relief, because sometimes I feel like if I'm really trusting God, I shouldn't feel afraid. I shouldn't feel that knot in my stomach.
The text argues that the knot in your stomach is part of the prepared body. It's human. And the source distinguishes this from stoic resignation.
What's the difference?
Stoicism is emotional detachment. It's the stiff upper lip. It's saying, well, I guess I have to do this unpleasant thing, so I'll just numb myself and get through it.
And that's not what Jesus did.
Not at all. He didn't numb himself. He felt it all, the horror, the separation. But then he brought that honest fear to the Father and said, "Not my will, but yours be done."
So it's not erasing the human will. It's aligning it.
It's relational trust. It's saying, I want to live, but I trust you more than I trust my own survival instinct.
There's a section here called Obedience in Silence that really struck me. Because in the garden, God doesn't speak back, does he?
No. No burning bush, no thunder, just silence.
And his friends, the ones he asked to watch his back, they fall asleep.
Total isolation. The source points out that this is where the deepest trust is forged. It's easy to say, here I am, when the miracles are happening and the crowd is cheering.
Yeah.
It's a different beast to say it when heaven is silent and your support system has collapsed.
That feels incredibly relevant to anyone leading through a crisis. You're doing the right thing, making the sacrifices, but nobody is applauding. It feels like everything is falling apart.
And that's exactly where the text says Jesus' Hineni becomes absolute. It moves from Gethsemane to the cross. The source calls the cross Hineni without reserve.
It's the ultimate all-in.
It is. And again, look at the physical cost. We talked about the prepared body. Now that body is being destroyed. Betrayal, shame, the feeling of being forsaken. Why have you abandoned me?
But even in that abandonment, and this is the paradox, he says, into your hands I commit my spirit.
That is the anchor. Even when he couldn't feel God's presence, he trusted God's character.
Wow.
He entrusted the outcome to the Father, even when the outcome looked like total defeat.
And if the story ended there, we just have a tragedy, a noble martyr, but a dead one. But the deep dive pivots to the resurrection. How does the source frame that?
This part is beautiful. It frames the resurrection not just as a miracle, but as the Father's yes.
Father's, yeah.
It's the vindication. It's God the Father looking at that life of total costly availability and saying this is true life, this is not wasted, this is the axis upon which the universe turns.
So the resurrection proves that the open hand is actually stronger than the closed fist.
Exactly. It validates that surrendered obedience is the path to life, even if it goes through death first.
Okay, so we've established the theology. Jesus did it perfectly. He stepped forward, he suffered, he trusted, he was vindicated. But here is the problem. I am not Jesus.
Minor detail.
Just a minor detail. If the takeaway from this is be like Jesus, go get crucified, then I'm tapping out. That standard is crushing. I can't even handle my inbox, let alone the sins of the world.
And that is exactly the fear the source addresses. It knows that if this is just another ethical demand, another be heroic like Jesus, we're doomed.
Right.
That's why the final section introduces the concept of participation over perfection.
Participation over perfection. I like the sound of that. Unpack it for me.
The idea is that we don't generate this availability on our own. We aren't the source. We are participants.
Okay.
Because Jesus already said the perfect, here I am, our job isn't to duplicate it, it's to step into it.
So it's less about striving to be good enough and more about, joining a current that's already flowing.
That's a great analogy. The current of obedience is already moving because of Christ. We just stop swimming upstream. We stop fighting. The source says it's an identity shift. We are defined by our alignment with him, not by our individual performance. When we fail, when our availability is fragmented like Moses, we're covered by his uninterrupted availability.
Let's bring this down to the office floor or the kitchen table. The source talks about authority born of availability versus authority born of assertion. What does that look like for a leader?
This is a massive shift for leadership. The world tells you that authority comes from assertion. Be the loudest, have all the answers, control the narrative. I am here and I am in charge.
Right. Let's give me.
But authority born of availability is different. It's servant leadership, but deep down, it means your authority comes from the fact that you are under authority. You aren't defending your own ego.
So practically, does this mean I just say yes to everything my team wants?
No, and that's a crucial distinction. Remember, Jesus had a prepared body. He had limits. He withdrew to pray. He slept.
Right.
The source explicitly mentions sustainable rhythms and discernment.
Oh, that's interesting. So saying no can be a form of Hineni.
Absolutely. If you are saying yes to everything, you're acting like you're the Messiah. You're acting like the world depends on you. Taking a rest, turning off the phone, setting a boundary, that can be a way of declaring, I trust that God is holding the world together, not me.
That is actually really hard to do. It requires more trust to stop working than to keep working.
It does. It requires trusting the silence.
The source uses a visual analogy near the end that I found really helpful, the musician.
Yes. Living with open hands. Think about a musician playing an instrument, say a piano or a cello. If their hands are tense, if they are gripping tight, trying to control every micro movement, what happens?
The music sounds stiff, it doesn't flow, and their hands will eventually cramp up.
Exactly. To play beautifully, there has to be a release of tension. The hands have to be open, flexible, available to the movement of the music. The source suggests we should live like that.
And we're usually walking around with clenched fists, holding on to our reputation, our 5-year plan, our resentment.
Right. We're white-knuckling life.
Yeah.
And the invitation here is to release the grip, to say, God, I'm not in control of the outcome. I'm just here to play the music you put in front of me.
It brings us right back to where we started. The exhaustion, this version of availability, the open hands, the participation. It actually sounds restful.
It is restful because the pressure is off. You aren't the savior. You're just the one following him.
We've moved from Hineni being a scary demand, go save the world, to it being a welcoming reality. Come join me in what I'm doing.
That's the summary. Hineni isn't a check you have to write. It's a check God already deposited. We're just living off the balance.
Grace precedes action.
Always. We respond because he first said, "Here I am."
That is a profound place to land. It really takes the weight off. But before we let everyone go, I want to leave them with the challenge the author poses at the very end of the text. It's a question that's been rattling around in my head all week.
It's the question to sit with.
The author asks, if Christ has already said, "Here I am," on your behalf, what does it mean for you to say it in response?
It changes the question from, what do I have to do, to how can I respond to this love?
So for you listening right now, maybe you're in the car, maybe you're doing dishes, maybe you're hiding in the bathroom at work, just to get 5 minutes of peace. Think about one area where you are holding on tight, where your fists are clenched. Maybe it's a career move, a worry about your kids. Maybe it's just the need to be right in an argument.
Find that tension.
Find that tension. And ask yourself, what would it look like, just for today, to open your hands, to participate, rather than trying to perfect it? To say, okay, you're here, so here I am.
That's where the freedom starts.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. This is a really good one.
A pleasure, as always.
We'll catch you on the next one. Take care.